So what do we actually mean when we talk about ambient anxiety? Firstly, ambient anxiety is potentially harder to spot than some other forms of anxiety. Things on the surface are often subtle, even when there's a lot going on inside. Ambient anxiety is a pervasive, low-level sense of dread or unease that stems from a combination of subtle, ongoing stresses in the environment. And unlike other forms of anxiety that will often have an identifiable trigger, ambient anxiety is diffuse and persistent and can be likened to a background noise of stress that seeps into everyday life due to numerous triggers. It's sometimes harder to spot, so we need to know what to look for. Physical symptoms include things like tension headaches, ongoing muscle aches, and unusual levels of fatigue and lethargy. Where cognitive symptoms can manifest as forgetfulness and difficulty concentrating, or just generally feeling a little scattered. It gets really challenging when we start to look at emotional symptoms, since they can be quite subtle at first. As ambient anxiety takes hold, though, you'll feel restless, unable to settle. You'll likely feel irritated by small things that might not usually bother you, or you'll find yourself suffering from a general feeling of unease as the day goes forward and goes on. Behavioural symptoms across the day will manifest differently for different people. Commonly, though, look for increased procrastination as you struggle to stay focused on a task. You'll be drawn in to check on the latest news updates and social media threads, even when it isn't beneficial. You might find yourself making excuses to back out of activities or social gatherings that you'd normally frequent. Of course, it would be fair for you to ask why this matters. It really does. Ambient anxiety is dangerous exactly because it's so easy to underestimate. It can steadily lead to burnout and chronic fatigue, to more serious and directly impactful mental health conditions like depression or chronic anxiety disorder. It leads to sickness as a result of lowered immune system, to social withdrawal, which itself will inevitably lead to other daily challenges, severe loneliness on a personal level, breakdown in communication, and synergy on a professional one. Now, ambient anxiety can be treated if it's recognized. Prevention is, of course, better than cure. You can put measures in place right now to support you. Limiting exposure to the news or social media, establishing healthy daily routines for stability, practicing mindfulness techniques that work for you, physical activity and healthy sleeping habits are all very effective ways to hold off ambient anxiety. But maybe you already recognize the symptoms of ambient anxiety in you or someone else. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, face-to-face or remote support groups, mindfulness-based stress reduction can all be facilitated by a professional. Here at Lit Synergies, our qualified professionals run motivational support for individuals and groups as both a preventative and curative solution to ambient anxiety. What about the things you can do today, right now, to help you win against ambient anxiety? Well, you might start by considering grounding techniques, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that utilizes your senses to help redirect your thoughts and feelings. And some people find journaling useful practice. Writing down thoughts and worries can be a cathartic way to identify concerns and stressors. Then there is, of course, the support of those around you. Ambient anxiety is dangerous because we struggle to identify it, maybe even accept it. It's further complicated because it impacts us a little differently since, well, we're all different. By recognizing the symptoms and by acknowledging ambient anxiety, though, we can prevent it taking hold. We can prevent the damage it can cause. And if nothing else, remember this. You are at your weakest against anxiety when you feel like you are alone. But anxiety is at its weakest when we talk.